Welcome to the Designing Hollywood podcast in association with the John Campea Show. I am your host, Robert Meyer Burnett. The Designing Hollywood podcast show is dedicated to all things movies, the movie industry, and its talented professionals.
Hi, I'm Gilbert Musali, the new president and CEO of Western Costume, welcoming Designing Hollywood back to Western. You're at the biggest costume house in the US, the oldest costume house in the US. We've been around over 112 years now. We consider ourselves the one-stop shop for all your costuming needs here. With our two extra buildings next door, we're at roughly around 150,000 square feet. There are roughly 2.5 million costumes. If you need to get supplies, we can help you with that. If you need fabric, we can help you with that. Order fabric from around the world, anywhere you need. Deck out a full army if you want in our military department. Here's our supply store, catering to all your costuming needs. Thank you, Designing Hollywood, for coming in to see Western Costume. Hope to see you soon.
This episode of the Designing Hollywood podcast is brought to you by the Western Costume Company. And we are here with Dayna Pink at the Western Costume Company. Today's guest is a costume designer who has created the costumes for a wide range of film and television projects. She has worked with actor Steve Carell on a number of projects, most recently including his costumes for the award-winning Apple TV series The Morning Show. She served as the costume designer on Carell's films Crazy Stupid Love, also starring Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone, and Julianne Moore, and The Incredible Burt Wonderstone. I love that movie. I like that movie a lot. As well as designed Carell's wardrobe for Seeking a Friend at the End of the World. She has also worked several times with Will Smith on the films Bad Boys for Life, reuniting Smith and Martin Lawrence, Focus, also starring Margot Robbie, and Concussion with Alec, Baldwin, and Luke Wilson. I gotta say, I'm a huge Will Smith fan. In 2021, she was nominated for a Primetime Emmy and a Costume Designers Guild Award for Excellence in Period Television for her work on HBO's Lovecraft Country. Her film credits include Dog, starring Channing Tatum, Bumblebee, starring Haley Steinfeld and John Cena, Las Vegas, starring Robert De Niro, Morgan Freeman, Michael Douglas and Kevin Kline, The Lucky One, starring Zac Efron, Hot Tub Time Machine, starring John Cusack, Fame, directed by Kevin Tancharoen, Crank, High Voltage, another great movie, Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny, starring Jack Black, Live, starring Eva Mendes, and Sarah Silverman, Jesus is Magic, another great show. She earlier served as a fashion consultant on the Sacha Baron Cohen comedy, Bruno. Without further ado, it is our great pleasure to welcome Dayna Pink to the Designing Hollywood Show. Welcome. It's a great honor to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So what I love about what you've done is you've done science fiction epic IPs like Bumblebee, but then you've done great indie quirky films like The Pick of Destiny, bringing Tenacious D to the big screen, and comedy specials. I mean, that Sarah Silverman, Jesus is Magic, is a classic.
Yeah.
And everything you've done, how did you find yourself in the world of costume design? Was it a long process?
Well, I started out as a stylist. I started out doing bands and commercials. I lived in Detroit. Yeah.
That must have been fun.
Yeah, bands is a good
Yeah.
music town. So I did that, and then I did a kind of like a magazine type show there where I got to dress everyone that came and did the show. It was like a public television show, and whoever was a guest, I got to also dress them.
Well, okay.
But on that show, I did costume, hair, makeup. I want to say I might have done some script. Like it was like that
You're
type
the script
of thing.
supervisor too?
I might have. I'm not sure, but not no.
Wow. Now, but before this, how did you get in? Did you grow up wanting to get into costume design?
I've always loved clothes, and I've always been into fashion. I've just really loved fashion. So yeah, kind of like that.
Did you pursue it academically? Like a lot of costume designers I've talked to have an art background, or they were making clothes when they were kids.
I was
And-
not making clothes when I was a kid, but I definitely I looked at fashion merchandising. I went to college for fashion merchandising, and then but I did some modeling. And when I was modeling, people would dress me, and I would be like, "That's not so good. Like, couldn't we do a little better on the shoot?" Like, I would have like my own opinion about it, you know. And then after that, I had a girlfriend who was a stylist, and Camille was her name, and she was an amazing stylist.
It's a great name for a stylist.
She was the best. And I worked on a job or two with her, and I was like, oh yeah, this is totally for me. Like, I'm doing this. So I would do bands. I did the show, and on that show, every rock band came through. I can't even remember, but I am reminded by some of the talent on that show that, like, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck came through, and I know I did Will Smith. Like, he had just had a baby. He was 23 years old. Like, who knew, like, that I was going to in the future have this relationship?
Right.
So, but anyway, so I did that show, which was amazing, and then I really got the taste of dressing all these people and what that felt like, and doing bands, and then decided to move to LA. Came out and was doing music video. I did a music video for Jack and Kyle. It was the greatest song in the world.
Okay.
Music video, which was...
No, but you hadn't
epic.
known them until you came out to LA?
No, I had not known them. But my good friend worked at the record company. So he hooked me up and said, okay, we're doing this music video, yada, yada. Okay. So I do the music video for them. It's great and fun. And then I get a call that the director from the music video is doing the film Pick of Destiny. And do I want to read the script? And do I want to meet for the movie? And I was like, I just kind of started a career in Los Angeles. I didn't know whether it would be good for me to take myself off the market for 6 months or whatever a movie would take, because then you can't say yes. So I'm like, I don't know. I read the script. I'm like, I don't know whether I should do this. But then I'm like, well, I'm going to have a meeting. Yes, the answer is yes. Let me go in and have a meeting. So in the meeting is the director, Liam, the producer, Georgia Kakandis, who, you know, we went on to be best friends. She's still my dearest friend. And then, you know, a couple other producers, and we're sitting in the room, and we start talking about this script, and we're talking about what happens and what Jack is wearing when he gets off the bus. And then it goes into what's he wearing, but where did he get it, and why is he wearing it, and what is that T-shirt, and what is it? And the hair on my arm stands up when I still start talking about it, because then I have an aha moment that, like, oh, it isn't the what, but the why, and the where, and the how, and the who of it all. So who is he, and what is he saying by what is he wearing? I mean, the whole
You're
thing.
telling a story.
It blows my mind. It's still, like, I get to be a storyteller now. I'm not just like, what's the coolest, what's the greatest, what's the latest, what's the best. What does it mean? And what does it say about this person? So I just walked out. I'm like, oh, I'm doing that movie. I'm like, there's no world that I'm not doing that movie. I was like, oh, everything's going to change. And it was really, it changed my whole trajectory, because I realized I still style now. I still have a couple male clients that I do, and I love doing it. And I love fashion. I love fabric and drape and cut and detail and all of it. I love it. But I also love the idea of telling a story.
Right. I mean, and look, costume designers are the first line of that process. You're telling, when someone walks out on a set, what they're wearing could, like you say, tell where they've been for the last 20 years.
100%. And not only when they walk onto set, but before that, when they walk out of my fitting room, they already know who they are.
Right.
So many times we're, like you said, the first layer. So like maybe they haven't had that many conversations or whatever before they come into my room, but they come into the room like, okay, what, not that they haven't thought about it, but they haven't, like, it isn't concrete yet,
Right.
So, and sometime in that fitting, in that hour, 2 hours, whatever that it is, they go from this to that. They go from this person to that person. And we help them find that person. So they're walking onto set as that person because we have helped
100%.
find that.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you had that revelatory moment, it happened at once. Now, let me ask you this. The first experience, when you're on a set, you'd never been on a movie set before. Mm-hmm. What were some of the things that struck you about being on a set in terms of the way we worked, or the way how time, you're fighting against time, you never have enough time to shoot what you're doing. And what did you learn from that experience? Because if you've never been on a set before, the way a set works, how it ebbs and flows, how you make your days, there's a lot happening there. Was it scary for you? Did you fall right in, jump right in, get behind what was going on?
Well, I just I'm a person that says yes and makes it work. So even if it was scary, I wouldn't even know if it was scary because it's just like, oh, this is what's happening, this is what we're doing, and that's whatever. But it isn't dissimilar to shooting commercials, which I had done hundreds of, where you need to make a day in the same players and it's all happening. There's different details. There's color cover and there's the continuity books and all that. There's differences. But I had, 15 years of doing commercials. So I was so, familiar with what and who and where of the workings of
so you weren't coming in as you knew, because a lot of directors also started in commercials. All the directors that came out of the propaganda films, they did music videos and commercials,
That's
whether it's Dominic Sennett or David Fincher or Michael Bay or whomever, they all started out in music videos. And it's interesting, I think we've really lost something with the loss of music videos being such a force in culture, because so many filmmakers got their start there, and so many costume designers and so many people, the videos that were coming out of from the mid 80s to the end of the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about what Madonna did or what Duran Duran did, those music videos are so impactful.
Yeah, for sure. And it was wild because doing those videos, our budgets were crazy. We had so much money to spend.
Yeah.
It was sort of limitless, and the creativity was limitless. And that was a really beautiful way to learn how to create, whatever you could think of, you could do. And the time was insane. You'd have 2 days, 3 days to prep something, but they just threw money at it so we could make it happen.
No, and I missed that because I think there was a music videos changed the way films were edited. They changed the way films looked, and we've lost something now when they took the money away. When the record industry collapsed because of streaming and file sharing. But now that you've been bitten by the bug, and you've done Pick of Destiny, and then you started. Not only did you work on films, but you started developing ongoing relationships. Well, you're still working with Jack Black.
I still work with Jack.
We just talked about Jack Black. You just did the video for the end of Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. What's that relationship been like? You were there at their first feature.
Yeah.
Now you're working with them on. That movie crossed $500 million. Kung Fu Panda 4 is the 7th highest grossing animated franchise in history.
That's awesome. That's so great.
And you're working with Jack.
Yeah, I've been with him the whole time, and I really cannot say enough wonderful things about him. He is so wonderful, and I'm so grateful to still be on this ride with him,
And because you've worked on multiple projects with Steve Carell and Will Smith, what is a costume designer's relationship, an ongoing relationship with a star? How do you develop that relationship, that trust? And do you start with the script first, or do you start with the actor?
Well, we're talking about two things, because I've done films with all of those people, but I also, dress them for a red carpet and
Right. Okay.
So
that's unique. I mean, not a lot of, some costume designers do that, but that's because you began as a stylist. That's really, so you have that extra added little.
Well, I love men's fashion. I've always been super dedicated to understanding men's fashion and the nuance and the detail of it. So, yeah. And that is where I started, and I do still love that. But yeah, I did films with all of them, and then I just stayed with them. I was with Will for several years, and I'm still with Steve, and really love dressing him, and his wife Nancy's amazing.
That's interesting to me that so when you're creating a character on set for an actor, and then you're also dressing them in their real life, how is that different?
Well, a character, when we're doing a film, we are telling everybody who this person is, and so we're creating this history with them and for them. So, but I know what works for their body type, and so I have that, which is great. So, normally a first fitting, you're sort of figuring something out, and then the second fitting is, oh my God, this is it. But now, if I were to do, Steve or Jack, the first fitting do the first fitting. You just already automatically do the second fitting because I already know what works and what doesn't work.
After you had gone through the process of Pick of Destiny, what was next for you? How did you move forward? Did you get another film? Did you suddenly, now that you seem to be bitten by the filmmaking bug, were you like, okay, this is what I got to do?
I think my next movie was Crank 2. Yeah, which was really fun, and those directors were hilarious.
Yeah, hilarious. Yes.
They shot it, I want to say, on like rollerblades.
They did. They did, and they put GoPro cameras everywhere and all kinds of crazy.
It was like a music video. It was literally like a 2-hour music video. They were really funny, and they just said, do your thing. They let me, because they were interested that I had a music video background. They wanted it to be like that.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, that was a really fun one.
Now, do you start with the directors? Do you start with the script? How do you begin your process on a film?
Well, usually you have to meet for a film. So you get a script and you read it and you say, is this something that I think I can add something to? So even in meeting for Lovecraft Country, I met with the showrunner, writer, Misha Green, and the director, Jan. And this is a period 50s show. But I read it and then I went in and I said, you could do this. You could find somebody, some amazing period costume designer to do this. They're out there for sure, and they could do it to the letter of what this, period was. But I wouldn't do it that way. Like for me, I would keep the spirit of what it is, and yet do it with today's eye. So my pitch was, let's root it in that period. Let's use modern fabrics. Let's use some modern colors. Let's pop it in different places. So I was just wanting to bring my own twist to it in this way. And that was a match. They were they didn't need it to be to the letter of what it was.
And plus the nature of the show itself lent itself to doing something a little off kilter.
The music and all of it, for sure. There was something about it that was its own. And that was what made it really exciting for me. And the same, I'm on another period show right now that's 70s, and it's the same thing. It's all rooted in the 70s. It's all rooted in that place. But I made everything. And there's some of the fabrics that are really 70s and some that aren't. And there's this whole mixture of stuff because I can only do it through my eye. And if somebody wants me to do it, they're going to get my eye.
Now, you told me a story before we started shooting that was pretty interesting about, I'd asked you about getting bands or clearances, and you told me an interesting story about a fabric.
Yeah.
Could you tell that story?
So on this show that I'm on, we found this amazing 70s shirt that was just a buttoned-up shirt, and it had a pattern on it. It wasn't, we sent it through clearance just because something bad happens to it, but it wouldn't be something that you would ever, because it was a pattern, not a photo.
Right.
So we sent it to clearance, and they were like, no, you can't use this because of what happens to him in it. And I was I have to, I see this in my head. So I had my illustrator draw. We came up with our own thing. We drew it. There's a story to that picture. Then we printed the fabric on kind of 70s stretch fabric, and we made the shirt that's even crazier, more fun, and we ended up using that. We got that cleared. We had to send it to clearance. We used that, so it elevated it for sure, and now it's for sure our own, but it's so crazy that you even have to sometimes clear a pattern.
Right. Well, because it was designed by somebody, it might be owned by a corporation now, and it's an interesting, but I love the fact that you worked around that, and now the costume's more representative of you anyway.
It's even better.
So how much stuff do you build yourself? I mean, what is the percentage would you prefer to build everything?
Yes.
On a 70s period show rather than go vintage?
Well, you're inspired by the vintage, and I think the first 5, 6, 7 actors on the call sheet, we're building it all for, because either you're needing multiples of it. I can't give too much away about the show that I'm doing,
right.
Which is so cool.
Keep it a secret.
Yeah, but there's reasons that you have to build things, and sometimes one of them is these clothes are not new, so you're going to find this really cool vintage thing, But you don't, on Lovecraft, I used one vintage dress on Journey, and most of it was made. But there was a dress that sometimes you find something, you're like, I don't know if I could do it better. It's so good and so perfect and fits so beautifully that, you know, there are a few things that we just are like, oh, okay, you know, Uncle, I can't beat this. So we used this dress on her, and we started to shoot, and like 4 hours into day one, it just starts to disintegrate. It wasn't even ripping on the seams. It was literally falling apart on her body. And we had a long way to go. She had days and days to keep shooting in it. So we just had, you know, like people there sewing it. We had to patch from behind. We had to put it together. After hours, people stayed all night. She would take that dress off, and we would have our people staying all night to just like sort of reinforce that dress and do all the things. So that was a big lesson for me, that yes, it might look great and it might seem like the perfect thing, but you have to be able to have multiples if someone's going to work for a minute in these clothes.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. How many, on a dress like that, now that you know what you know, how many multiples of that going into a show now would you want of a dress like that, knowing what you know now?
Well, it just depends on how many scenes they have and how many shoot days they have, you know, and what's the action, what are they doing in that? You know, like in Roadhouse that I just did, we had so many multiples of these clothes because, first of all, we shot in the DR, which is hot and sticky. They're fighting. There's action. There's water. There's all these things. And there's not, like, Jake had, you know, he shows up in the Keys with a backpack with his clothes in it. So how many things can be in there? I mean, we sort of pushed it. I think we had 3 pairs of pants and 5 shirts or something. 1 pair of shoes. So, you know, he can't change every whatever. So, yeah, I don't know. We might have had 20 jeans.
Well, since you brought up Roadhouse, I mean, Roadhouse obviously is a remake, a reboot of the Patrick Swayze movie, you know, that Rowdy Harrington directed, that Joel Silver produced. And this new version directed by the great Doug Liman, who I'm a huge fan of, all the way back to Swingers, you know, his first feature. And I love Jake Gyllenhaal, who's an absolute monster in this movie. He was in such great shape. I mean, he did that film Southpaw, I think, when the guy looks incredible.
Yeah.
Great actor. Conor McGregor. Yeah. I mean, talk about stunt casting.
Yeah.
You know, he's coming in from another planet, but he was awesome. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed watching that. Talk about how did you find yourself doing Roadhouse? And first of all, had you seen the original?
Of course. Everybody has seen it. Amazing. And what did you say? What did you call it?
Reboot, reimagining?
Yeah, it was reimagining, I would say. Because part of the reason that I did this as well is similar to the other stories, which is I read the script and then I was meeting with Doug and I said, well, how do you see this? Are we, you know, is this a throwback? And is there going to be some vintage things? And do you want it to? And he was like, no. He was like, this is our own thing. So whatever, you know, we get to create our own world. Right. And that's when I get excited about, you know, creating this place, which is hot, sexy, sunshine, sand, water, all those things, and then popping these characters off of that.
It's funny. When I was watching the movie, I love the Roadhouse of the title. That set, it had to have been built.
Oh, yeah. That was a really good production designer. He did such a beautiful job on that.
That set, it was funny to me because I'm like, nobody would go to that place would turn it into the raucous place it was in the movie because it was too cool.
Yeah, it was
You
cool.
walk in there and you're like, wow, this place is right on the beach. This is amazing.
We just were so excited when we saw it. It was so inspiring, and just to hang out in it, it was really well done.
Yeah, and it made when you first get there and go in, that first scene when he walks in the Roadhouse, you're looking, as an audience member, you're like, oh, I will spend my time here.
Yeah.
Which was great because so much of it, the movie plays. When you get a movie like that, I mean, Joel Silver, guy who produced Die Hard, Lethal Weapon, Predator, he goes all the way back to the 80s. As a matter of fact, he was the associate producer of The Warriors in 1979. So he's one of Hollywood's enfant terrible producers all the way back. What was that like, knowing you're going to work on a Joel Silver production for Amazon? Money was probably no object. What was it like getting that gig?
Let me stop you
I
there.
know it's.
Money is always an object.
I shouldn't say that,
Yeah.
but you'll get what you need.
Yes, that's true.
They'll get what you need.
I think I look at everything the same. It doesn't matter if it's little bit. Like we're gonna do something. We're gonna do it artistically. We are going to make sure we get what we need. I'm going to fight for what we need. I don't know how to do it any other way. I can't do it with one pair of jeans or two or three pairs of jeans. It isn't about me.
Right.
This budget doesn't happen because I want it to be something. It happens because if you want it to be this, it's going to cost this. So it's just math, right? But I just look at it like this is this creative project with wonderful people, and I'm going to bring myself to it 100%, and we're going to have fun, and we're going to make it crazy, and we're going to try and create something that people remember.
I like what you said. One of the things I've liked about Doug Liman is when he broke out with Swingers, he was capturing a very specific moment in time in Hollywood, at the places people would go to, like the Dresden Room or the Derby, and everybody was carrying around pocket watches and all that, carrying the thing. It was very much of its period. And he was very good at that. He went on and did Go, and all of his movies, costumes play a real big part in defining the look. Even like what An American Made, the Tom Cruise movie and all that. What was it like with him? Because you told us a story about how he said, no, we're doing our own thing. Mm-hmm. How did you work with Doug Liman and developing, like when was Conor McGregor always on board, or did he come on board later? And how would you approach that character, and how did Doug Liman tell you to approach that character? Or did Conor McGregor tell everybody how they should approach him?
Conor was wonderful. He came in as a sponge, saying, what is the process here? And he came in just super open arms and absolutely let us
That's cool.
It was really cool. That being said, who he is already has to be an inspiration because he is a peacock and this guy is a peacock, right?
Sure.
So there was already a piece of that there no matter what. But that being said, I didn't want to do Conor as Conor. I wanted to do, in this setting, in this moment, create our own thing. But he was really supportive and he loved what we did. But the moment I saw those magenta pants in the store, because we didn't make those I found, and I was like, oh, those are the pants. There's nothing to talk
did he
about.
just embrace that?
Oh yeah. He looked. No. First of all, I think if I remember it right, I'm not even going to say what he said, which was really funny. Yeah, but he had a thought. He was like, he had like a thought, and then he put it on, and then I made that shirt that he wore with it, and he put it on, and he was just like, yeah, I'm in, totally in, and Doug was in. It was just like we got to do this thing that was elevated. And also, you've seen Jake in so many movies, and he looks great. He's just done everything that you can imagine. So if I don't want to go backwards for him, and I want to go forwards for him, and I want to create something with him and for him that hasn't been done and seen before, like what does that look like in the Keys at this moment? A guy who had some fame, who was a fighter, who, also could be a bit of a peacock, but he has like a sort of quiet, dark side as well. Maybe those things were shirts that he had when he wasn't so quiet. Maybe he was a little louder when he was in the UFC, fighting and all that. So what would that have looked like?
Right.
He's not shopping. That guy's not on Rodeo Boulevard, going, let me just pick up some silk shirts. So like, what did he have? What did he keep? And where did he get it? And
there's that image. They did poster images of all the characters. Did you style that for a shoot?
Yeah.
Because that picture of him, kind of like sitting in the chair with the shirt open, I mean, that summed it right up.
Yeah.
And as a stylist, did you make that happen? Because that image was so great of that shirt and all that. I mean, no wonder they went with that as the key art.
Yeah, I did not make that happen. I cannot take credit for making
that
happen.
But you picked the clothes.
Well, I really was dedicated to him in these shirts as this guy with a little bit of pop.
It worked so well.
Thank you.
Now, this is interesting to me because you have I love the fact that you have such a distinct, you're bringing yourself to the place. Now, how is that, like, when you're developing a character, like you bought these pants, but if Conor McGregor didn't see the shirt and it didn't work with the pants,
Yes.
it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
So, but you, like, you're what a director does with a cinematographer, you seem to have a little bit more of that in terms of bringing a vision, which I love. I mean, I think that's what makes, what makes films is the collaboration between all these great artists.
Yes.
And when the great artists are allowed to do their art,
Yes.
as opposed to being slavishly, well, we have to be slavish to period. And you were the one that came in and said, yeah, do you?
Do you? Right,
Do you have to be?
you? That's a me shot. Does it? Is it? But here's the thing. We are collaborate. We're artists and we are collaborators.
That's the great thing about making movies.
For sure. It's amazing because it is a collective art form. And I can read something, look at something, feel something in my heart, and I can be super dedicated to what it is and what it looks like. And sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes then I get in the room and then I'm like, oh, I thought it was this, but maybe it's that. And then an actor will say, you know what I've been thinking is if this guy did this before and that, and then it's added its ingredients to the soup and I'm bringing some paprika and you're like, paprika, wait a minute, why didn't I think of that? So then it changes and grows and becomes this other thing. Or a director spoils it with something and spoils it in a good way, like, oh, no, we're actually going to put sugar. You're like, sugar, but this is not like savory. What are you talking about? You're like, oh, okay. So it's kind of like this whole thing, which is the best part about it, is that sometimes I'm dedicated, and I will tell you 100%, I know it's this, and I love the moments when it isn't. I love the moments when I'm working with someone it's, or is it that? And is it that? And what if we do this? So it's just this whole moving thing that becomes, once I just wait for them to just say action, rolling, action, and then I know it really is. Because until then, anything can happen, you know? And you're like, the dress, it's the dress, I made that dress, I saw, everything about it, the dress. And then you're just standing on set waiting for them to, do it, rolling action, boom, it's the dress, and then you're moving on to the next thing. But like, until that happens, until they actually start rolling on it, anything can happen.
Right. Now, when you were growing up, were there movies that you loved, iconic fashion moments in films? Like for me, the Marilyn Vance, whose podcast this is, she was one of the first. I mean, everyone had heard of Edith Head. But when I started watching movies in the 80s, I noticed Marilyn Vance's name. Yeah. I'm like, because she had a certain level of cool, because she also worked with Joel Silver, in that team.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see, because you could follow styles. Like there were certain styles. Did you have favorite movies growing up and costumes that meant something to you, or things that left an impression?
I mean, there's definitely...
Because Detroit might have been more rock and roll than movies.
Yeah, it was probably more rock and roll than films. But, I think it's that, but I think it took me understanding the storytelling of it all. Right. To have the full appreciation of what a costume designer does.
Right. And you learned by doing. You've had that revelation basically on a set.
Yeah, for sure. But I have so much respect for people's careers and what they've done and the people whose shoulders we have come up on. Like, we're here because of the beautiful work of all these people who have worked so long and so hard and given it all, to just, when someone comes in and says, wants to work in our department, if I'm interviewing someone and they say, what are the hours? What are the hours? And I say, all of them. All of them.
Our young people, that's a message, you know what? That is a message that you should make a public service announcement. For all of you in high school and college today.
You want to know what the hours are?
All of them.
Because it is all of them. That is so, it's just what it is. Like, there is no beginning and middle and end to our day.
Right.
We just don't, there is not a night when we're in prep, in filming, that you don't, have a thought as you're turning over of like, oh, the shoes, wait a minute, we could do better. Like, I think it's the thing is, like, it's something, did I forget the belt? Does she have, what's her bra? Like, it's just this constant thing and you're getting emails and calls. And I don't mind, you know, because I am all 100% in. So I don't mind the all-encompassing thing of it, because this is just like, if I'm on a project, I'm on it from the beginning, you know, till...
Yeah, you don't just have dinner and not think about the next day. You're like...
Oh, there's no turning off your cell phone. It isn't. I am not the person who's like, oh yeah, my phone's in my purse. Like, no, your phone is in front of you at all times, because you don't know what it's going to be. And I do like that. You know, I would be lying to say that part of that wasn't addicting to me, of this big, long process of the becoming of this piece of art.
Well, you know, when you work with actors, like when you're working with Will Smith, you did a lot of diverse roles, because he's a cop in Bad Boys, and then he's a very refined doctor, you know, in Concussion, an immigrant doctor. When you're dealing with an actor that you've known and you've styled outside, how do the two of you work together to create a character? Does an actor like, does Steve Carell allow you to present your ideas first? Does he tell you what he was thinking first? Do you do it together? How do you guys, especially when you've worked with an actor before?
Yeah. I think it's a conversation to begin with. I remember meeting Will for the first time. I went to his house and I had this presentation, and he was so wonderful about wanting to give me my space to create, and he was so lovely. And then I was like, oh, but I want to do this together with you. You know, I wanted us to be partners in it in this way. And that was for focus. And that's what happened. We just had this amazing love, you know, of this character, of Nicky, and all the things he could be. And we made most of the clothes for him. And it was, it was really... That movie was unforgettable for me because of my process with him and all the changes he had. But as many changes as he had, I did 2 movies with Steve, which was Crazy Stupid Love and Burt Wonderstone. And I want to say, I think in Burt Wonderstone he had like 50 changes. Yeah,
I was going to say, because Burt Wonderstone is a costume potpourri.
It was wild. And I remember the first fitting with Steve. He came in, and I don't know if I had 30 racks of clothes all around the room, and I did it by outfit, by change. So, you know, this is the options, all the way around, and he just walked in. And it was, you know, just so much volume, so many things to do, but I couldn't love that more. You know, I would be happy if it was 120 changes with him.
And when you know an actor already, I can only imagine how much fun you guys must have been having.
It was really fun. And Crazy Stupid Love, also, the before and after, you know, the fitting of the polo shirt with the, you know, horizontal lines. We didn't have to go further than that. He put that shirt on, and then the long pants.
Yeah.
And then those New Balance sneakers. And we're like, and we're done.
On that movie, it's interesting because Ryan Gosling has Mark is his stylist. He has a personal stylist that we interviewed for this show. And he was the first time I ever spoke to somebody who was a stylist, and he's not a costume designer. But Ryan Gosling, to me, has always, he's worked on so many different kinds of projects. Mm-hmm. And since, you know, I'll ask, because I did Fall Guy. I love Ryan Gosling's sense of fashion. And whether he's in Blade Runner 2049 or something, did you get a sense of that from him? You know,
a sense of his personal style?
Or just a sense of his style. Like, does he bring, when you're working with an actor who, because, you know, everything's made up that we see, everything in the, so, because he seemed to be fearless on Barbie, whether he's being a detective as a replicant.
Yeah.
Was he like the kind of guy that would just wear anything? Like, how was that? I mean...
No, he definitely has a sense of style, and he looks great in clothes. So it wasn't a hard job to make him look good. That wasn't, the biggest challenge I've ever had. But what was really...
Because he seems to love clothes to me.
Yeah, I think so. I think he did. He was really fun, and he also was open to our ideas and what we brought to it. And it was really... such a great ride. That film was so much fun.
It still stands the test of time too.
Yeah.
You know, people rediscover that movie, and that film's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't. When you work on something like that, and it does stand the test of time, are you ever surprised when people come back to you and say, "Oh, you worked on this. I really like this thing." Do people ever come and remember stuff outfits people have done or anything like that?
Yes, I mean, yes. What's cool about that one in particular is we sort of knew we were making magic. There was something so special about it. I can't really describe it, but there's this thing that happens when you just are like, you're seeing it in real time and you just can't wait for everybody to see what this is. You know that it's going to be something really special.
Well, because when I watch Roadhouse, I'm like, I want to dress like this summer. I mean, I need to hit the gym for I need to do that 28-day chair yoga workout.
Oh my God.
Because all of those clothes, they look so breezy and comfortable and colorful and fun. And
thank you.
I mean,
we did what we set out to do.
Yeah,
That was the idea.
It was on screen. I mean, it was definitely. It was fun to watch. You could just watch those people wander around in those clothes.
Thank you.
They'd go to the beach, get on a boat. Because everybody was kind of flowing.
Well, that was the idea.
They're flowing all the time.
Yeah. When we were fitting Jake for pants, I was really happy that we went with something that we had one pair that wasn't jeans, because I thought it was important. First of all, it felt really modern to have a cotton pair of pants that fit. The fit was really interesting.
But that environment, jeans get a little constrictive.
But his jeans that he wore were loose, and he got, he had the room, and those worked also. Those were fantastic. Yeah. But I was really happy that it wasn't just jeans. I was really happy that we did a pair of cotton pants that could move, that felt modern. They were a little short. It was just like, it felt really current to me and of the moment. Now, what am I going to say about that one in 20 years? I don't know. We'll see.
No, but it fits the milieu too. You're out there at any one moment, you're going to get your feet wet. You're on the beach.
That's right.
And one of the things, because I lived in jeans, and one of the things about Southern California is I don't want to wear jeans to the beach.
Yeah.
You never want to do that.
I just like I like the less obvious.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and so there was something
But that's what makes it unique. When you're watching something, I think that's what clothes do to characters. I mean, when they're wearing something that's slightly different than what you might expect, or slightly, you remember those. One of the first things when I met Martika and we were talking about Marilyn Vance, I said to Marilyn, I still want to find the leather duster Michael Pare was wearing in 1984 Streets of Fire. It's 40 years later, and I still want the damn jacket.
Yeah.
And I think when people see movies and they become fans of things, and you watch them over and over again, there are clothes that I think people identify with fashion from film. They have been doing it since the dawn of time.
Yeah.
I mean, if you did a Roadhouse summer wear fashion line for somebody, I bet it would sell huge. I bet people would.
Well, people already started knocking off the shirts. It's kind of funny, but not funny at the same time.
Well, yeah, because you got to get a piece of that.
Well, it isn't just that, but it's just like, it is not a good version. You know what I'm saying? So It's not good. So those are the ones that they're selling, which were not expensive and not fancy, but they just took it and they really, I don't know how they got the exact pattern or did the thing, but I can promise you, if you order it, it's not going to feel fantastic on your body. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I talked to a costume designer that actually was responsible for doing Sons of Anarchy, the TV show, a line of fashion people could buy.
Right, which is great, and they are collaborations that companies will do with costume designers that are great.
Because you'd think that Amazon, they can sell these clothes. I mean, they're all ready to go. Why wouldn't they have a whole line of Roadhouse fashions?
I never even thought about that till this second when you're saying that. That's
really?
Hilarious. No, it didn't.
So I would have gone to, I mean, and this is what I don't understand. I'm like, okay, these clothes, this is a clothes, you're going into the summer season.
Yeah.
Roadhouse drops in March. Or I think it dropped in March, maybe it was early April, but it drops,
March,
end of March, and you've got this whole line of you're going into the season, and you're watching on Amazon Prime.
Right.
You know how they have those, if you pause it, it clips and shows you. Pause it if you'd like to buy this shirt.
We could have done some,
and it would be your name on it.
Yeah, well, I have no control over that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that would be, I don't understand why they don't do, that's just not par for the course. I mean, on YouTube, as a YouTube collaborator, you can put anything you have on your YouTube show, any clothes you wear. I show DVDs, movies, you can put links, and you get not very much, but they give you money to do that.
I think that once we create something as a costume designer, the studio owns it.
They do. But
So
you can make
we
it your
don't-
deal. Well,
Nobody's signing that deal. I would love that to happen, and I think the Costume Designers Guild, is very aware of this situation, and we all know what it should be and how this should work. Even about getting credit, there's so many things, there are so many pieces to this.
right.
But yeah, it would be great if that happened, and I hope it does.
One of the things I didn't even ask you is, do you build a lot of your own stuff?
I do.
You do?
Yeah, I do. I really like to build things because you can find things, but a lot of things are imperfect, to exactly what we want. Meaning, like, if this color is a little bit, it's the color, it's the shape, it's the form, it's what would be more flattering. So sometimes we'll find something and then it inspires us, and then that's our jumping off point
Right.
to making something.
Do you sew your own stuff too?
Do I personally
Yeah.
sew? No.
But that's so cool that you build, like, how do you, when you're working with your team of people, do you have, like, some people have their team, they have leather people in Italy, or they've
Yes,
got,
yep,
so
yes.
You must have developed quite a portfolio of
We
people
do.
that you go to.
We have people all over the world, and different people make different things, and there's people that make our men's suiting, there's people that do our leather, there's people that print our fabric, there's all different kinds of people. And then we also have a shop, as we're working,
Right.
we have a shop in-house that is creating things all the time, especially on this period show that I just finished, where we need multiples of everything. Somebody else is making the original for us, and then our shop is doing multiples of multiples.
Wow. Wow. So you're truly an international operation then. You're getting stuff wherever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an amazing. Now that you've worked in the industry now for quite some time. I mean, not that long, but I've talked to people who've been in the business for like 60 years. But what have you, over the course of your career, such as going from doing music videos and doing personal style stuff in Detroit to where you are now, doing a big budget Amazon project with huge stars and a big producer, what are some of the lessons that you could impart to other people? What are some of the important things that you've learned along the way that you might not have expected to learn, or things that have surprised you about being a costume designer?
I mean, that is such a big question. And it is maybe about being a costume designer or just about being in film in general.
Yeah, either way.
There's a few things. The first thing is the power of yes. The first thing is I wouldn't be sitting here with you if I hadn't done that PBS show where I was doing script and the thing. And I don't know if on that one, but I definitely did I did script, hair, makeup, costume, all, at the same time for $100 a day. Not on that show, but at the same time I was working for $100.
Cool. Well, I think you might have just hit on one of the most important lessons any young person, because a lot of people, I was going to ask you later, what advice can you give to young people?
Yeah.
This right here is that piece of advice.
It's the power of yes. It's the power of, you are going to meet a person, you are going to learn a skill, you are going to see something on set, something is going to happen that you are never going to be sorry that you said yes to a job. And there's always something wonderful about it. And also, there is the thing of saying yes and figuring it out. Do you know how to, 1927? Absolutely. 1927. Yes, it was so different than 1926. And then you go home and you figure out what that means and what that looks like, because you can, if you think you can do it, you can do it, and it's just say yes and figure it out. That's the lesson.
I used to do that when I first started learning how to edit non-linearly in the 90s. I get jobs, people would call up and say, do you know how to do this? I'm like, oh yeah.
Right.
Not having a clue.
Yes, but you will.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Do you?
I go in an hour early and think, how do you do this?
Yes.
Where's the manual?
And you figure it, the answer is yes, and you figure it out. And that's the thing, if you really want it, if your heart is in it, if you really think this is where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be doing, you will figure it out, and you do figure it out.
So now that you're in the door, now the power of yes has got you on set, and you did a great job. What else then? What else? I mean...
You show up. show up in every way, meaning I really truly believe we don't have 110% to give. We have 100% to give, and you give that 100%. You know, you can't do more than you can do, but you actually do everything you can do. And you don't put your phone down. You don't put your phone away, and you make you make everything happen. And this is maybe, you know, the people around me might not love this about me, but when I say it doesn't happen until they call action and it's rolling and it's going, it doesn't happen for me until they call it. Meaning, I might not be done also.
Right.
So you know, the good enough is not good enough. I do not believe in good enough. It has to be exactly what we want it to be. And there are so many times where we will make something, and my wonderful tailors and the people who are making things for us, or I'm getting something made and it comes, and then I put it on and I'm like, yeah, almost. We're so close. And then we have to go back and redo something, because we're not, just because it is what we thought it was going to be, that might not be the right answer. So being dedicated to what the right answer is as an artist, it's just not done until we're done.
Well, I love that attitude. I wish more people had it.
It's a pain in the you know what.
Well,
some people would be like, are we really redoing this? And then you're like, you are, and you're going to be so happy, because when you see it later, when it goes on set and it's the thing, and the shoes are right, and the accessories are right, and the sleeve and the shoulder are right, and all of that, like, it is magic. But until you see it all together, you don't really know. You know, this is just a moving art.
And people, though, are going to be watching it for the next 100 years?
I don't know. We hope so.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I like that attitude. I don't think that attitude is something understood much today. I wish more people would take the time to get it right, or get what they think is right.
And I don't want to present something if I can't tell you, you know, if someone is also, if someone on our crew is pulling something or suggesting something, whatever, you know, they have to be 100% dedicated to that. So tell me why it's this. What is that? And if I'm teaching something, because now I am at a place in my life, in my career, where I want to bring people up, where I want people to learn and grow and do. So, you know, what do you think, and why do you think it's that? Like, what are you selling, and why are you selling it? You know, because if I am selling something, I 100% can tell you every reason, all of it.
What else have you learned over the course of your film career now, in terms of about maybe collaborating or working with, like, for instance, what I didn't ask you, what is your relationship like with production designers and directors of photography, and the things like colors and things like that? Do you consult with them? What stage of the process do you consult with the DP and the production designer, art department?
Early. First of all, how something is lit is really important as to what we are going to do in that room. Is it dark? Because then our color palette's going to be a little bit different. And what is the color palette of the room? So it is a collaboration of all those things as well. And that you have to know that before someone sits on that green couch, he better not be in a green shirt, unless you want it to be, which I do sometimes on purpose, which I love. But you better know that that's happening.
Wow. Okay. So do you keep in touch with? I mean, on a daily basis? Do you go in pre-production? When do you start talking to the production designer and the director of photography?
Yeah, early. And a lot of times there's just a lot of emails back and forth of what does this room look like, and what is the wallpaper, what is the color, what is the set, all the things.
Have you had to change or alter your palettes ever when they're going to shoot a film a certain way? Like
yeah, sure. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Like having, again, to do with lighting, or when you realize it's so dark and you really want it to look like something, then you sort of shift the way you're doing it because of what it's about to look like big picture.
You know, it's interesting that you're just on a TV series. The way that they've been actually color timing shows, they've been crushing blacks in ways I don't like. I mean, I've noticed, because I'm a big home video fanatic, and seeing a lot of streaming shows, they make them too dark. I think that they're overall, and this is something that's happening in post. Is that something that you are aware of, or?
Yeah. Yes, I hear what you're saying.
This is not a criticism, you know, it's just an artistic choice. And I would think that for you sometimes, like, I'll give you an example. So there was an episode of Game of Thrones, in the 8th episode, called The Long Night, where the White Walkers come and lay siege to Winterfell. When it first aired, people couldn't see it. And when you watch the way it was finished, like if
Yeah.
you watch it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
But the way it's being presented for TV,
Yes.
it's too dark, or it's called nits. The light is called a nit. And there's a lot of latitude, and sometimes shows are going down all the way down to 100 nits when they could be at 2,000.
Yeah.
And so there's the detail and color.
Things get lost.
Yeah. It's just because I've noticed it, because it's a new aesthetic. It's something that's
I mean, there's so much to say about that, which is also, there's that, and then there's how things are shot. Because you're gonna love those shoes, but if you're right here, you're never gonna see those shoes. Which is also a budget thing of like, are we spending money? You're never gonna see them, but I want you to see them. So
right.
So there's so many things, and God give me the serenity to do, I whatever I can do. I promise you, those shoes are going to be shootable. Whatever walks out there,
right?
And that's how I feel.
Well, that's
about
your
extras.
job. You have to. You don't know.
We don't know.
You have to make it that way. But
so
I can
every
imagine
extra that we do, I lay eyes on every single extra, head to toe. And the shoes are going to be shootable. Every single thing that you see, everybody that walks out there, I'm going to be able to make an argument for. There's
right.
no world where I'm going to be like, put him in the back. I want you to be able to see it all. So everything is important. Every detail is important. But I have to be dedicated in my life and in my job both to doing the best that I can, putting it out there, and I have no control over what happens after my job is done.
Right. Of course. And that's the thing. I started out working in the art department, and if you'd build these sets, and they wouldn't even shoot in this direction. And
completely. Trust me, there's so many things that I've done that you've never seen. The back of a piece that I'm thinking of right now, which we built this amazing thing, and the back is life-changing, and they never shot it from behind. But that, again, it's there for them.
Yeah.
So if you want to see it, you can, and then I have to throw away all my, expectation is planned resentment. So I have to throw away all my expectation. All I can do is bring the delicious dinner to you. And if you're going to eat it, fantastic, eat it and enjoy it. But if you're not going to eat the dessert and the side dish and all that, there's nothing I can do about it.
Right.
But it's delicious. You should try it.
I love that. Now, is there any other, before we wrap this up, is there any other advice that you could give to anybody who wants to follow in your footsteps?
I just think you have to love what you do. I love it so much, and I am so grateful. There is not one day that goes by that I don't have an immense amount of gratitude for where I am and who I am doing it with. For my own crew, for the sets that I'm on, for the people that I work with, for the styling clients that I have had these long, beautiful, wonderful relationships with. I have so much gratitude, and I think that loving what I do is the key to all of it.
Yeah.
I think, love it, do it, be dedicated to it, and say yes to it.
Well, I think we could leave this there. It's been so much fun talking to you.
Thank you.
So Dayna Pink, thank you so much for
you.
being on the Designing Hollywood show. And, what do you have coming up next? I know you're doing a show that we won't mention or say it, but do you have something else coming?
I have a show that I just finished, a Max show with Bad Robot, J.J. Abrams, Max, 1972, crime, drama, cars, blue jeans, leather,
Nice.
FBI. Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
A special thank you to founder and executive producer Martika Ibarra, co-founder, costume designer, the legendary Marilyn Vance, and of course, John Campea from The John Campea Show. Thank you to all of our viewers for tuning in, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tune in to the audio version wherever you listen to podcasts. I am, of course, your host, Robert Meyer Burnett, and you can find me on Instagram at rmburnett, or find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, or on YouTube at PostGeek Singularity. Thanks very much. Like, subscribe, and give us your comments. What would you like to see on the channel? Right down below. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode of Designing Hollywood.